Hello, you lovely lot. Welcome along to another Lunchtime Live at All for United. I'm Ben. I'm here with the United Daily. It's great to have your company this afternoon. I am thrilled to be in conversation over the next 30 to 40 minutes with Rusty. Russell's with me and Raman Paul as well. Guys, hope you're good. Hope everything is fine with you, of course. Still buzzing from the win on Sunday. What a game. It was ferocious. It was end to end. We dominated. We won 3-1. I mean, it was a win, wasn't it, at the end of the day? It was none of the before. But still, we got the win, and now we look ahead to the Royal Sociedad game. But I thought, seeing as, we're a few days away from that, we don't need to be previewing it just yet. I wanted to hit on a couple of points that keep being spoken about in the media, keep being spoken about in the press, and discussed by fans. How actually good is our squad? And I thought the only way that we can do this is by taking inspiration from that United family and Carl, who used to do this quite often with different fans, and having a look at the tier list of Manchester United players within the squad that we started the season with. So I'm not going to be putting Amad Diallo in this. I'm not going to be putting Shoa Terry in this. I'm literally going to be talking about the squad that we started the season with and that we continue to put our hopes in to mount some sort of title challenge, some sort of top four challenge, win some kind of trophy between now and the end of the season. So let me just quickly... do you know what? I was going to say, let me quickly get it up, but I knew Russell would jump in with some kind of joke on that. So let me quickly just get the window on the screen. Here we go. Right, here we go. So here's the tier list. It's going to be simple. We've got a number of options. We've got world-class player in red. We've got quality player in orange. We've got squad player in a between orange and yellow colour. We've got a point to prove in yellow. We've got sold or deadwood in green. And we've got on loan in blue. So we'll ignore the on loan. We will ignore the sold or we'll come back to the deadwood potentially. But we're mainly focusing on the top 4 points. As you can see here earlier on, I put some names in. I'm going to drag them all out now. And I think to make this simple, Russell, let's start by just having an overview of our squad. Before we put the players into whatever order we're deciding to put them in together collectively, what do you make of our squad, Russell?
Decent. One thing, by the way, just I'll keep the dead one up, mate, because I've got one in there. Controversy. But yeah, our squad is progressive. It's getting there. It's getting better. You know what I mean? As good as Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is, he's no Sir Alex Ferguson. So that squad has to be as good as the manager as well for me right now. He can't work the magic. We don't know yet. It's early days in his career. But for me, he couldn't do what like Ferguson did with depleted squads. So I think there's quite a lot of strength there at the moment. It's getting better. There's a philosophy around the team. They understand each other. Game by game, I just seem to feel like we're getting a better identity, a better way of playing. Be it if we're on the counter-attack, be it if we're pressing, be it if we've got to sit deeper. We just seem a better team. There's still mistakes in there. Of course, there's still frustration in there, 100%. Is there room for improvement? Do we need new players? Yes. But you need new players every season if you want to keep competing at the top anyway, Ben. But for me, it's the happiest I've been in 8 years, 100%, can say that hand on heart.
What about you, Raman? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the squad obviously can always do with sprucing up, regardless of who's in charge. I think I was obviously trying to get the identity back, which has been lost in between, obviously, the Moyes, Van Gaal and Jose era. And I think he's doing quite well. What I would say is that there are still certain areas where I think just anybody else would as well, and any manager does, they have their favourites. So personally, I would like to have seen somebody like Twan Zabi when he was fit to have been given a proper run alongside Maguire. Bailly, again, unfortunately, he's always getting injured. There's always areas that can be improved, and I think the defence in particular, and also I say forward, we can't just rely on Cavani only. So there's areas that still need improving.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one, man. Just so you know, by the way, the audio is slightly glitchy. I don't know if it's the wireless earphones. Sometimes they can play havoc, or if it's slight internet, but feel free to have a look at that whilst we continue talking. Let's jump into the tier list then. And I'll start with the first name. As you can see, guys, get in the live chat, by the way, and get involved. If you're listening to this later on, come and get involved on our Twitter at United Daily Pod, or get involved in the comments on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/all4united. Come over to the video for the tier list and put your thoughts in the comments. We're going to be doing this off the basis of that we can all agree. So myself, Russell, and Raman will be talking about each player, and we're going to be seeing where they should go. We're going to have our own opinions, we're going to debate it, and then we're going to come to a decision. So let's start with the first name that I can see in front of me, and I'm actually going to start with Brandon Williams. And I will start. I'll kick things off. I'm personally going to put Brandon Williams right now in a point to prove. Reason why? He's not getting much game time as it is. We are actively looking for a right back to complement Wan-Bissaka. I think that person might be Kieran Trippier. I think he can bring in experience, a bit like Alex Telles was brought in to challenge Luke Shaw. So where does that leave Brandon Williams? Well, he's a young lad who got a lot of criticism at times when he was playing last season, but he did play a lot of games. Ollie showed a lot of trust in him. I think he needs to go out on loan, and this is where I'm coming from. I think he's got a point to prove whilst he's out on loan that he will be good enough for Manchester United. And for me, that's what will come. And that's what I expect of him next season, especially if we go out and buy a right back. We've got Telles and Shaw on the left-hand side. Williams needs to go and get games. So he's got a point to prove if he wants to be a squad player for United or even a starting fullback. Russell, let me come over to you first.
Yeah, great points. And I deliberated between squad player and point to prove as well. I really like Brandon Williams. I think he's got a really bright future. Of course, there's going to be mistakes in him. He kind of got thrown at a deep end, when there wasn't cover on the left, there wasn't cover on the right, mostly on the left where he came in. He's naturally right-footed as well. All in all, though, I think he still has a point to prove, and I completely 100% agree with you. He should go out on loan, go and flourish somewhere, get plenty of game time, because he's only 20 years old, but he's got a lot in his locker. He's got pace. He's got vision. He's great at tackling. You know what I mean? Maybe his decision making now and again and his positioning needs sorting out, and something that'll probably come from playing week in, week out. So as much as I'd love to put Brandon as a squad player, I just don't think he's quite there yet. So I completely agree. He's got a point to prove.
Raman?
Well, he's a very young lad who's obviously got good future ahead of him, and a lot does depend on obviously how he applies himself, and including off the field, by the way. I like his aggressive nature. I like the way he approaches the game. Nice turn of pace, always looking to go forward as well. And just as you mentioned previously, right-footed player who's equally comfortable on left or the right-hand side of the fence. Everybody's got a point to prove this, I think, irrespective of whether they're youth team, first team. I don't think anybody should be a shoe-in all the time. I know obviously you have Bruno Fernandes who's playing exceptionally well, but I think Brandon's been a little bit unlucky as well with injury, and also sometimes off-field can affect you on-field more than people realise. So without getting too much into the details of what possibly has or hasn't gone on off the field, sometimes you have to cut somebody a little bit of slack. Going out on loan would be a great move for him as well. But again, is he determined enough to want to fight for a first team berth? I think he has got the desire. He's obviously still getting used to the realms of the first team, even though he's played quite a few matches. But consistency is key. Just wanted to pick up on the point of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, by the way, obviously challenging on the right-hand side. I know that you've alluded to Kieran Trippier as being somebody who could be possibly challenging and making an impact like Alex Telles has on Luke Shaw. Personally, I think somebody like Max Aarons is somebody I would prefer to bring in. I know he's not as experienced as Kieran Trippier, but I think he's a very, very, very good prospect. Very good prospect. Just like Ben Godfrey's done at Everton and he's excelled. No reason why Max Aarons couldn't do the same at United.
Yeah, just so you know, by the way, I completely agree with everything, Raman, but just so you know, you are really glitching, so you might want to go out and come back in and see if you can change over those earphones. I don't know why, but I don't think StreamYard likes AirPods, which is really frustrating. So I'll take you out for a second. You want to go out and come back in. I don't know if you might just have to use your speaker and we'll see how it sounds, because it'd be a shame to lose you, mate. I really do agree with that. I suppose the only reason why I went Kieran Trippier over someone like Max Aarons is because I feel like Wan-Bissaka's a prospect still in himself. If you've got two prospects battling it out for one side, someone's going to suffer with game time. So with someone like Kieran Trippier, at least when he comes in, he can bring in experience to help develop Wan-Bissaka. He can also bring in a lethal right foot. So if you need someone to pump balls in the box in the last 15, 20 minutes of games, what a substitution to have. But I think we'll go with Brandon Williams in a point to prove. Let's move on, Russell, and I'll let you start with this one. Actually, seeing as we're talking about Wan-Bissaka, let's go with Wan-Bissaka. Where are you putting him?
He's a progressive player, isn't he? He's another one who's now and again got a mistake in him. But his tackling is just pinpoint. It's deadly. It's accurate. And he's getting good at doing them tackles and cleaning up after himself as well, getting up off his feet, getting hold of the ball, looking to move the ball forward. And slowly but surely, he's turning himself into quite an attacking force as well, which I think we'll see more of, hopefully by the back end of this season that we're going into now. But hopefully next season we might see like the polished, the finished article. So I think he's a quality player. So I'm not going to talk about him as being world class. And he's definitely more than a squad player because he's going to play most of the games week in, week out. He's one of the, Ollie sees him as the first choice right back. So with everything that he's got in his locker at the moment, for me, Ben, quality player.
Me too. I think he's one of the best out there. And I also think defensively, I've said this before, I think he's phenomenal. Raman, let me bring you back in. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear everything okay?
Yes, can hear you very well. Is it better without the earphones?
Yeah, you sound slightly quiet, but I think you're fine. I think we can hear you. Everyone would just have to turn up their volume a little bit more. That's fine. Wan-Bissaka we're discussing. Feel free to shout at the phone to get that little bit of volume. Russell's put him in as a quality player. What do you think?
I think he's a fantastic defender when it comes to making the tackles. He's easily, in my opinion, the best in the league when he's making. However, if I'm really honest, I think he's regressed from when he signed. Going forward, that is. I know that he's had a couple of games where he's done well and a couple of assists and obviously weighed in with the odd goal against Newcastle and Southampton. But on the whole, if I'm really honest, I've been really disappointed with his positional play. Every time I've seen United defend, they give me such jitters when it comes to the back line. And whether it's Lindelof and Maguire, but Wan-Bissaka also, unfortunately, is in that mix where his positional play at times, I'm very surprised at how he's gone backwards. Even bombing forward, the first handful of games he played for United, I thought, great, here's somebody who can actually bomb forward and obviously, be a galloping right back who, you got to remember, he played, obviously, he started as a winger. So you would have expected him to have his natural game as a winger. But unfortunately, I don't think he's really kicked on from that sense of obviously being an attacking fullback. Of course, when it comes to challenges and tackles, 100% I agree that he's the best in the business. Nobody makes better challenges, whether they're last ditch or not, than Aaron Wan-Bissaka. But I'm really honest and really critical of it. I think his positional play really lacks maturity, and going forward, I think he just tends to bomb forward and then stop because he doesn't want to take on the opposition fullback. And that really disappoints me because I think he's got great ability, but unfortunately, I don't know whether or not he's just decided that he's got a lack of confidence to take on the opposing fullbacks or not. I don't think he's coming up trumps.
So, still quality player, Raman, for you?
Oh, he's a quality player. I just think he's regressed. That's mine.
I think it's interesting because I also think Wan-Bissaka's another one of those players who probably isn't helped by those around him. For instance, he's not got a stable head there next to him in terms of a Lindelof or Bailly. There's always question marks about that. Additionally, you've got the right wing position. He hasn't had a consistent partner down there to thrive off of. But I still think he's shown enough to potentially be United's fullback for the next 10 years. I just think he's brilliant, and I think if he continues improving, we've got a more than quality player on our hands there. When he ever gets to world class, who knows? You don't see fullbacks like sort of positioned with that world class tag, do you, very often? But he is definitely a quality player. We're talking about defence, Russell, so let's come back over to you. Maguire, we need to speed this up a little bit, so feel free to try and be very articulate but brief. Go on, Russell.
Right, okay, articulate but brief. That's something that's always in my locker, Ben, but we'll give it a try. I think Maguire comes under a lot of pressure, gets a lot of stick, which is not warranted. I think he's an absolutely fantastic defender. He lacks a little bit of pace. That's probably what separates him from world-class defenders. But for me, he's definitely a quality defender. You know, he's a kind of defender that United need, the one that brings the ball out, that looks to attach to that number 8, attach to that number 6 as quickly as possible, or even allows them to push up a little bit further up the field as well. You know what I mean? He's got a great head on him when it comes to defending. Not as prolific as I'd like him in the box when we're doing corners and set pieces. But for me, he's a quality player, and I hope he continues to just prove the critics wrong. Quality player.
Russell, nicely put it there. Something that he's got in his locker. What do you think of Maguire? Quality player?
Yeah, I think so. I think he had a bit of a turbulent time, obviously, not so long ago. But he's shown his mental strength. What I do like about him, actually, even when it comes to his pre-match or post-match interviews, you know, he really does have an air of authority of considering the team first always. The team is what matters to him. The squad, even, should I say, not even just the team. I do like him, but of course, just like with anyone, they have their critics, and rightly so as well. You know, he isn't blessed with the greatest turn of pace. Therefore, I think actually his game has been affected more so being partnered with Lindelof. And I know Gary Neville alluded to it last week, and quite rightly so again. I think that they're probably not good for each other. They're probably very good partners with somebody else. But when it comes to playing with each other, the lack of pace generally really does impact on the other one's game. And that's what's happened.
Raman, let's naturally flow into Lindelof then. Feel free to start talking about Lindelof. Where would you put him, and talk more about Lindelof's game?
Yeah, if I'm honest with you, I don't think he's Manchester United quality. And I'm really, really surprised at how many run of games he's had so consistently and regularly, which is what I said at the start was I think he's one of Solskjaer's favourites. And every manager does have their favourites, so there's nothing wrong with that. But I just really don't think he gives the defence any air of confidence or authority. I think he gives me the jitters. That's as simple as that. Every time he plays, I really am thinking, right, and he's not commanding. He doesn't command the box. He'll have the odd game here and there where he has a great duel with somebody and might do well once in a while. But I'm afraid if he causes me jitters, imagine what he does to the rest of the back line, including De Gea.
Where does he go for you then, Raman? Is he someone you want to see sold? Has he got a point to prove? Is he a squad player? Where would he go?
Sold. Simple.
Sold. Wow. What about you, Russell? What do you think of that?
Some good points. But for me, he's a squad player. He's not of United standard. I agree. He's not commanding, as Raman said. He's really good with the ball at his feet. I've never seen a central defender so poor in the air. I just think he's awful. His timing when he jumps for balls is just ridiculous. The amount of times that I've seen him jump too early or jump too late or just not jump at all. is just not good enough at Old Trafford. And I think Harry Maguire will look a lot better and play a lot better with a better quality centre back alongside him. So for me, I'm not going to say sold, but I think that's what's going to happen in the long term. I would put him down as a squad player. Barry's put. I would put Lindelof at another club as well, hasn't he? In the comments.
Do you know what? I'm going to sit on the fence between the both of you here, and I'm going to, just so that we can come to a nice resolution without having you two to fight for position, I'm going to go Lindelof with a point to prove, because I do think that when he comes in, when another defender comes in, he drops down automatically then to being a squad player, I think, because as you said there, Raman, you hit on a perfect point. I think he's one of Ollie's favourites. So there is no chance that Ollie's just going to go, I've got another centre-back now, buy one of my favourites. He's probably going to start the season with Lindelof again, then slowly integrate this other player into the team, potentially. And we'll all be there scratching our heads at like, well, why is he still persevering with him? As we do every week. So I don't see him going like this summer. I think at some point he will be sold, like you said. But I think for now, I think he's got a point to prove, because also these players change when they go from being first team regulars to then a squad player. You either see the worst of them whenever they get a chance, or you see the best of them whenever they get a chance. I think we've seen the same with Eric Bailly. When he comes in, he's either frigging awful or brilliant, and he looks like he solved all our problems. So I think Lindelof is going to have a major point to prove. So I'm going to sit in the fence and go between the two. Seeing as we're talking about defenders, and I've just mentioned his name, what about Eric Bailly on this list, Raman?
For me, a squad player. I know obviously everybody loves him at the moment because he's the only centre half that's got the real nice bit of pace, nice and aggressive. You know, he loves a battle, never shirks a tackle. If I'm again, I hope I'm talking in a context where I think, from what I can see, he's very rash with his tackles. I don't think he necessarily reads the game as well as people think. I think his pace and the fact that he's so quick at making the tackles gets him out of some very, very tricky situations. But also, I think he's also got an error in him as well. We know obviously about his injury crisis. That's very unfortunate, by the way. I think it's a real shame when players have injury problems, and I don't wish that upon any player. But I don't think, if I'm really honest, he would be my number one choice centre half, because I wouldn't be able to trust his longevity when it comes to his playing career.
Mm-hmm. So does he go in as a squad player for you then?
Absolutely squad, because again, I think he's proven the last couple of years you can't rely on having a defence built around Eric Bailly, because unfortunately, as I say, his injuries take precedence.
Good points made there, Russell. I completely agree with that. Do you agree with that?
I agree with that. He's fast. He's aggressive. He's a bit of a showman, isn't he? He likes to put on a bit of a show, and that's what you like sometimes as a fan, isn't it? You know, I mean, he's good to watch, but he is a bit of a calamity. His positioning is sometimes subject, but then again, he makes up for it when, say, like, our fullbacks are too far up the pitch and we get caught on a counter-attack. He's got great pace and he can get back and he can make them last-ditch challenges. But same with Raman. If I'm looking for a pairing with Harry Maguire, it still wouldn't be Eric Bailly either. So he goes a squad play for me as well.
I don't want to dive into him too much because we haven't seen an awful lot of him, and by the looks of it, with the way Luke Shaw's playing, he's going to be a squad player. Can I just have a yes or no? Do we all agree here that Alex Tellez squad player?
Squad player, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good. By the way, a very good squad player at that. May I just add? But let's put Tellez in there. Then let's move on to the goalkeepers, shall we? This is going to be a really interesting debate. I want to start it with, without going into too much. Obviously, we all expect Sergio Romero to go right in the summer. So if I put Sergio Romero down as sold, I don't think we expect to see him here after the summer. And actually, to be honest, it's mad that he's still at the club. So I'll put him in there. Who do we discuss first? Right, Russell, we've got about 20 minutes left, so we've got to keep this quite brief. Although I think we could talk about our goalkeeping situation all day. Let's start with David De Gea. First of all, where does he go and why?
Right, first of all, I think David De Gea or Dean Henderson's going to leave in the summer and Romero's going to come back in at number 2. So I'd have him as a squad player. So we're going with David De Gea. I think I saw a comment before, AJ, he said curious to see where David De Gea ends up. Personally, I feel he's dropped from world class to a quality player. And I hate being critical, I hate being negative of any player, but I think he has dropped from a world-class keeper to a quality keeper, which is a shame because he's only 30 years old. Really, that's when you're hitting your peak as a keeper. But for me, the things that I think everybody can see is that he's not the greatest in the air. He's not the most commanding in the box. He is quite rigid at times. Shot stopping, unbelievable. He's been caught out on his near post a few too many times over the past 18 to 24 months. And I'd love to keep him in world class. I really would. That line between quality and world class, can you manage to fit him on there somehow? I'm not sure. He's like drifting between the two. But he's still, for me, he's still our number one. He's still the best keeper we've got at Old Trafford. So quality player.
Quality player still. Raman, be interesting to hear your thoughts on this. Guys, get in the live chat. I'm going to do some shout outs in a minute for you guys who are watching. Raman, very briefly, where does De Gea go for you?
I think Russell just said everything more or less what I would say myself. So I'll keep it as brief as that and say he's a quality player. You know, every game that he has a bit of a clanger or he drops a clanger, I feel disappointed because I really like him. I've always liked De Gea. But I think the time may be coming close to the exit door for him. But no doubt, a quality player. And of course, in his time, he was world class. I think he was the best keeper at one point in the world at his peak. But unfortunately, I just want to make that point once again. It doesn't really help when you haven't got a great centre-half pairing in front of you. I agree, by the way, that he's always had a problem about not being able to command his penalty box or penalty area. He's never done that, unfortunately, even when Rio and Vidic were there. So, quality player, but if I'm honest with you, I can see the potential of an exit door looming for him.
Hello to Paul, Coach's Desk. Greg has been watching as well. Callum, AJ, Barry, Neil. So many of you getting involved in the live chat. Thank you, guys. Sound off as we're having these conversations. Please help us shape this tier list and hit a like on the video as well and subscribe to the All for United channel, please. Interesting. I do agree with everything that's been said. And I think this is where there's actually there's just such a debate to be had because I haven't seen enough of Dean Henderson to say he's a quality player. I've seen enough of David De Gea to say that he's declining and quite rapidly at some points. I think that at times, I don't know if this is where United are just changing the way we play and De Gea no longer suits us. His distribution, it's not getting any better. He's not commanding his area. I mean, in the past, potentially he had the defenders to be able to command that area for him. So it didn't really make a lot of difference. However, at the moment, in this day and age, we're looking at keepers like the likes of Addison, looking at the likes of Edison over at City. And David De Gea just looks like a world away from them when he was better than them by a mile at points. So I think it's really interesting. I personally think De Gea's got a point to prove, a massive point to prove. But you've outscored me. So I think we'll keep him in at quality player. And if he goes in at quality player, then Raman, where does Dean Henderson go?
I think you've got to give him a chance. You have to give him a chance as the number one goalkeeper. I know obviously there's rumours of Donnarumma from AC Milan possibly joining, but I don't think that you should deny Dean Henderson a chance because he needs a consistent run of games, of course, including in the Premier League, not just cup games, because I don't think that's always the yardstick for finding out whether he's your number one choice goalkeeper. Sometimes you have to just put him in the mixer, and let's face it, he didn't do too bad in the Premier League last year, so why not give him a go?
Does that mean he's got a point to prove then, Russell, for you? Do you think Dean Henderson's got a point to prove?
Yeah, I put him in the point to prove tier. He's, you don't have to look at Sheffield United this season. Obviously, I think it was a one-off. They overachieved last season, but they're buried at the bottom of the league, so the amount of points that Dean Henderson did save them last season was incredible. He is a good keeper. He's had, I think, 5 clean sheets since he's been at Old Trafford, but none of them have really been like, wow, Dean Henderson serves a man in a match for that clean sheet. They've just been games where we've coasted through it and he's had little to do. So I still want to see a lot more for Dean Henderson. before I make a complete judgment on him. I think he's got potential to be a great keeper, but for me right now, still got a point to prove, and why not put him in there and give him more game time?
We've got 15 players to go, and we've got about 10 to 15 minutes. So, guys, we've got to really keep this brief and go into it. But obviously, feel free to have your say. This is the whole point of the show. And if we do go over, then I slightly apologise that I underestimated the how long this would take today. But hopefully, you guys have got the time to stick with me. Let's go with. Do you know what? He's first here. I'm just going to do it. And I'll let Russell and Raman explain why Bruno Fernandes has gone straight up to world class. Go on, Russell. You can go first.
Simple as, you know what I mean? He's come in. He's had like the Eric Cantona effect on us. He's aggressive. He's a leader. He's confident. He's got panache. He scored. Is it 30? Played 37 games this season in total. 22 goals, 13 assists. If you're creating them kind of figures, he could hit over 50 goals this season. When you're doing that, you're world class no matter, you know, whoever's mouth this is coming out of, whatever team you support. It'd be classed as one of the best players in the world by the end of this season, I think. So within Man United, an RT system we're looking at here, ultimately world class. Charisma as well. Someone just said he's got it all at the moment. If he can produce this year in, year out, he could end up being a United legend, couldn't he?
Raman, what about you? Any arguments against Bruno being in world class, or do you want to spit lyrical about the reason why he's there?
He's unbelievable. The impact he's had has been breathtaking, and I think again all of the plaudits that he's had, and rightly so, they've got every single merit to them: goals, assists, influence, passion, drive, the will to win, the desire. It's just, he's relentless in his desire to want to win. And I have to say, if I'm honest with you, the only thing I'd like to add to everything, apart from the fact that he's world class, I think he needs to be our captain.
Oh, wow. Fair points. Well made. Raman, I'm going to come straight back over to you. A player who always divides opinion is Paul Pogba. First of all, where does Paul Pogba sit on this list and why?
Well, I'll try and keep it brief. Of course, he's world class when he wants to be on his day, but unfortunately, I don't think he has those moments often enough. That's why I always hesitate when it comes to world class, because he doesn't prove it often enough. He's got every attribute that is required for a player of his caliber, but I'm afraid, personally speaking, I can't see a future for him at United for too long unless he swallows his own pride and does more of the talking on the pitch rather than every now and then letting his agent have a little chance to have a little, bite at United every now and then. So Drew's still out for me. He's always got a point to prove because unfortunately he doesn't do consistently enough. Playing the odd game here and there in 5 or 6 really well isn't good enough. And for me, Drew is still out.
Do you know what? I will be completely honest with you, Raman. I 100% agree with that. And I think that was the point that I was making at the end of last year. Not the end of last year, sorry. Before he went on this really good run of form towards the end of last year and in towards the injury, because I think he has been really good. What he shows since Ryder made those comments before the Leipzig game, near enough in every single game, is that he could be a consistent midfield player of world-class ability. And I think he is slightly, to his credit, changed my mind about him. The problem I have is I'm justifying that decision on seeing him play over a 2-month period. But the 3 years before that, he didn't show me this world-class ability and this consistency. But it depends also what you categorize world-class as. For me, a world-class footballer has that cutting edge quality that can have a moment in the game to be the difference to winning that football match, but also they're consistent with bringing the best of players around them, and they're consistent with the numbers they put on the board and their performances. Paul Pogba showed me he can do it, but has he shown me he can do it enough to be actually up there as a world-class player? Russell, that's where I'm struggling. Tell me why you were going crazy then.
I'm not going crazy because you've got some valid points. The consistency is always an issue with Paul Pogba. I don't know if it's his mentality, his off-field events. I don't care really, but because I just want to see him produce what he can produce on the pitch, which when he wants to is world class. Is without a doubt, when he's on form, he's one of the best players in the world, and he can change games. You know what I mean? His vision is just unreal. His passes are just some of the best I've ever seen since like Paul Scholes at Old Trafford, someone like that, just like switching the ball from left to right effortlessly, which creates space so quickly. And then when with the attacking force we've got, we can exploit it amazingly as well. And yeah, I can understand why you put him in quality player, because of the consistency is the key. But you've only had like the past 2-3 months really to look at him and say, right, okay, you've been world class for the past 2-3 months. So, but I'm going to stick off what he's been playing like since he's come back, and we have missed him since his injury. And for me, he's world class.
Do you know what I always think as well when judging and doing these things? I think of if he goes into another team, what type of Paul Pogba will we see then? I still don't think we saw enough at Juventus to call him a world-class player. He was a quality player in a very good team, may I just say, at Juventus. And I think here he has been in a really poor team at times and been the best player, albeit we've had consistency issues across the board with the squad and the team and the players we've had over the years. I do agree with you that on Russell, that we've seen the best of Paul Pogba at United consistently, potentially over the last 2 to 3 months. And I think that's a world-class footballer that we saw. I also do agree that when he's not in the side, we miss him massively. And we have missed him since the injury. People are sounding off in the comments. I think this one, I am going to leave him where he is up the top there with Bruno, because I do think that if there's anyone else in this squad who is near Bruno when it comes to that natural world-class ability, I think it's Paul Pogba. I think someone who's very close, Raman, who could get there. So I'd love to know where you think he's at now, is Marcus Rashford. Where does he go on this tier list?
Well, I know there's a lot of people out there that are detractors towards Marcus, but me personally, I think he's nudging really, really close to that world-class category. Please bear in mind that he's had a back injury that he hasn't really fully recovered from, and he hasn't had ample rest either. His statistics are showing why, as an under-23 striker in the world, there's probably only Haaland who's above him for sure, and rightly so, by the way. He's just a phenomenal player, but his goals, assists are right up there. Now, just like anybody else, play them in the right position, you'll probably get the best out of them. If you're going to play him on the right, that's not naturally his favourite position, should I say. He's much better when he's on the left. But again, he's done it for the benefit of the team. He's played out on the right. He's not necessarily your typical Cavani style number 9 who wants to lead the line. So play him in his right position, you'll get the best out of him. But I think some fans do get a little bit, disrespectful sometimes towards Marcus, bearing in mind he has had a back injury that he's battled through for the sake of the team. Many other players might have cried off, but he hasn't, and he still doesn't. For me, he's very, very close to that world-class category, if not already there.
That's a really good point when you say about his numbers and what he's doing week in, week out. And when we're talking about Haaland and Mbappe already being world-class players, Rashford's in the top 3, maybe top 5. So how he must be knocking on that door, Russell, if not there near enough already. Maybe, I mean, to our credit and discredit, maybe we watch too much of Rashford to see the little areas which we're judging him for here, which potentially PSG fans still see in Mbappe when they watch him week in, week out and watch every minute. Maybe Dortmund fans see as Haaland. But of course, when we watch into those players, we're seeing glimpses. We're reading reports. We're maybe, taking 80 minutes of a match into mind and not the full 90 with those players. So potentially, are we doing the same with Rashford? Where does he go for you?
I think there'll be other managers, other scouts around the world who would say, like, he's on our list. We'd have him if he came available for Man United. All the big teams in Europe. I still think he's 12, 24 months away from being a world-class player. But when we talk about consistency, like we did with Pogba, Rashford does that. Rashford brings it nearly every week. 18 goals, 11 assists this season. He's 23 years old. His heart and his desires there. He's passionate. He works hard both on the pitch, off the pitch. I think the only negative, I suppose, maybe one too many touches. You know, in the final third, maybe his decision making could be a little bit better. But when he's making them runs into the boxes, and sometimes he gets it wrong, it genuinely pushes up further up the pitch, gets a corner, gets a free kick, allows us to sit higher up the pitch. So if he is losing the ball in them positions, sometimes it's not always the worst decision that he's made. But yeah, maybe he's one-on-one with the keepers, and maybe his decision making at just the final point. Like in the final third. But apart from that, for me, he's a quality player. And if you come back and ask me this question in about 12 months, I reckon he might be world class.
Yeah, that's what's really exciting about Rashford, I think. He definitely has. The sky's the limit. His ceiling's so high. And I think those adjustments he needs to make, they're for him to be made personally. Doesn't matter who's coaching him. I think when it comes to football IQ and it comes to that decision-making process, I actually think that you can do a lot of the graft on that yourself. It doesn't matter who your manager is, who the coaching staff is. So just fingers crossed, he knows that there are areas that he needs to improve, and he does improve, because if he does, he will be world class, as you said, in 12 months' time. I believe that massively. Let's move on. Let's go on to someone who potentially has seen his day at world class, but maybe dropped down slightly now. Can we keep this very brief? I just want to know where you'd put him, because we know who Cavani is. We know how good he can be. Raman, just quickly, where would he go?
World class.
World class still? Okay. Okay, what about you, Russell? Where does he go now?
Absolutely.
He's a quality player. 200 goals in 301 games for PSG makes him a world-class player. But we're not getting to watch a world-class player. We're getting to watch a squad player. So he goes in squad player for me, just on the essence that, not his ability and who he is, just the fact that I think he is going to get rotated more. I think Martial's still going to get a chance up there. I still think Greenwood's going to get a chance to play number 9 as well. If Cavani can play a role week in, week out, then yeah, of course he's a quality player. There's no denying that. And he'll go down as a legend in football as well.
I'm going to sit on the fence, as I did last time, and put him in between. Go on, Raman.
Sorry to interrupt, but would you not probably think that, bearing in mind, obviously, the effect that Zlatan's had at AC Milan as well, that the fact that obviously, he's 33 now and his age, but if you played a second striker closer to him rather than trying to play him in a front three and isolating him on his own, I think you could get even more out of him.
Yeah, potentially. And also with injuries now, where he's got a bit older and he's had a plethora of injuries. I do think that we could get more out of him. I also think Ollie loves him because he's just a natural number 9. He's the only natural number 9 we've got. So I actually believe the reason why he's not playing at the moment is down to fitness and injury. And the reason why we haven't seen a lot of him is down to fitness and injury more than it is Ollie seeing him as a player to rotate. I think if everyone's fully fit, I think Cavani starts. So I'm going to put him in a quality player. Let's move on to another player who I would personally still put here, but has seen good form, Dan James. Raman, would you agree he's a squad player?
Yeah, definitely squad player at the moment. Plenty to prove. Confidence has been a bit of an issue. Downturn in form. In fact, he's only young. Let's face it. Again, maybe his decision making sometimes could be a lot better. Changes dimension of play rather than being very one-directional. But definitely squad player, I would say yes.
Russell, what about you? Squad player for Daniel James?
Points proved for me for Dan James. Like him, he's progressing. His decision making is contentious at times. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer said the other day about his goal, not against Newcastle, the one game before that. He said he loved the fact that he run with the ball and kept running, didn't pull it back, didn't look for the first pass, and just ploughed on and got his just desserts for it. So he's showing that he's listening to the coaching staff. He's developing his game, but right now he's still got a point to prove for me.
Can I play devil advocate, Russell, and say that maybe potentially he's proving a point as we speak? Maybe, if in 2 to 3 weeks' time, if we were to do this again, he might have switched a few minds. I remember James yesterday talking about how Dan James changed his mind immediately after that Southampton game, because what he saw was a more mature player playing than he did, and it could just take little games like that, little changes, little switching up that can change that mind. So just because two of us have said squad player, and I know you said a point, I'm going to keep him in a squad player for now, but I do think he has to prove a point, and maybe at the moment he's proving that point.
Do what you want, Ben.
Oh, cheers, mate. Really appreciate that. Thank you. It's good that I control the buttons, isn't it? Let's go with someone else who's potentially been touted as squad player, but has come on a lot this season. Scott McTominay, Russell. Go on, you can decide where we put him first.
Yeah, he's squad player for me still. I do believe he'll end up being a quality player. I reckon he's got longevity at Man United. He's developing so well. His game's got so much maturity about it now. He's a calmer head than he was as a young lad that we first saw come in. He's getting goals to his game now. And squad player, but next 12, 24 months, once again, another player that I reckon will take that step up to quality player.
Yeah, it's interesting because the argument's always been, Raman, before this season, you'll never win a Premier League with Scott McTominay in your midfield. What have you made of him this season, and where does he go for you?
Yeah, for me, actually, I find him a quality player. I really like him. I've watched him in the academy many years ago. He could, I've even seen him play up front, centre forward, centre half, centre midfield. I don't think really it's been fair on him as well. The fact that there's been so much change in the middle of midfield and the type of role he's been asked to do. People think he's a defensive midfielder. He's not necessarily a defensive midfielder. People got this impression that he just protects the back four. He's got a lot more to his game than that. Plenty of energy, and trust me, he's got a lot more quality to probably see because he hasn't been given the freedom and the license to necessarily expose his qualities as such because he's having to.
Oh, we lost Raman there. Do you know what? I just want to quickly say on that, Russell, and I don't know if you might agree with this. One player one thing that I would potentially like to see, and I hope he doesn't leave, by the way, but if Paul does go his separate ways in the summer, I'd like to see us invest in a proper defensive midfielder, and my choice would always be NDD, and see Scott play the full. I think that's where we get the best, and you get the best out of our players with NDD and a proper defensive midfielder in there.
Indeed, he's my first choice as well, by the way. So good shout there, Ben.
Cheers, mate.
But yeah, he could play in that role. As Raman was saying then, people identify him as a defensive midfielder. He isn't necessarily a defensive midfielder. He plays in that pivot with Fred. But the whole point, people got really negative about us playing 4-2-3-1 because two defensive midfielders. But for my coaching days, my playing days, I remember playing 4-2-3-1 meant you could then defend in numbers, but you could attack in numbers a lot quicker as well if you've got two defensive midfielders playing in that pivot, which has been shown even more by the amount of goals that McTominay has scored this season, and that because we're moving the ball forward quicker, so he's getting attached to the number 10, the 11, and the 7 quicker as well. So yeah, I think he's naturally progressing into a position where he can play that Pogba role.
But this formation also allows you to have a player who can play a free role and can literally play anywhere they want. And when you've got a world-class player like Bruno Fernandes, who's putting in world-class performances within that free role, you don't want to take him out and move him about. So you've got to keep that formation consistent. And I think we see United at their best when Matic or Fred or McTominay, whoever decides to take the role on themselves, and they don't do it enough, when one of them drops back potentially next to Bayo or Lindelof and lets Maguire roam forward a little bit to play the passes through, because he's a very good passer with the ball, massively underrated, and allows them Pogba or Fred or McTominay, Bruno, with the inside forwards and the fullbacks to push forward, because then there's enough cover. It's about having that intelligence, isn't it? Sorry, Raman, we lost you then on McTominay. Do you want to quickly pick up from where you left off?
Yeah, just wanted to obviously just add the fact that you give him any particular role in this side, and he'll do a job for you. And those players are worth their weight in gold, especially when you have injuries, etc., and so on and so forth. But personally, I think with the right balance in midfield, there's no reason why he can't stay in the United midfield, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know where to put him. I'm in two places. I don't know whether to go squad player or quality player, because I personally believe that Scott McTominay is one of the only midfielders within that squad. Depends what happens with Paul Pogba in the summer, that I think can hold his position right through to the end of next season, because I think he is that good. And you just judge. Problem is We were discussing whether Paul Pogba was a quality player or a world-class player so passionately, thinking that he could only be a quality player, so to speak. Scott McTominay isn't at Pogba's level, even if. So I'd feel bad like making that argument. I'm going to put him in a squad player for now. But I agree with Russell. I think he's going to make it to be a quality player. I just think he needs a few more games. He needs to have that partner next to him. We said this about Wan-Bissaka. He needs players around him who can complement him. And as I just said to Russell, Raman, that I personally believe that if Pogba did go in the summer, if you put McTominay in that Pogba role and had a defensive midfielder there, we'd see the very best in Scott McTominay in this Manchester United team. So I'm going to leave him a squad player for now, but I 100% agree with you that I think he will go on to be up here sooner rather than later. Potentially within the next but by the end of the season, he could have proven us wrong already. I'm going to put this man in here because that's where full goals should be. What about Wan Mata, Raman? Just briefly, and I'll hit on a couple of these. Do you think we'll see him sold in the summer?
Yeah, I think it'd be close to that. Really, I wouldn't be surprised, by the way, if he gets offered a coaching role in a backroom staff or something. That really wouldn't surprise me at all. Or maybe a swan song in Spain, but I can't see him playing again for United beyond this season.
Yeah, interesting point. I'd agree with that. Russell, what do you think?
Yeah, squad player, intelligent, smart, lets the ball do the work, not his legs. So it's something he definitely needs. Now his legs are slowing down. It's sad to see him go. Squad player.
So you don't think you wouldn't say, if you were given a choice, would you set him in the summer?
Yes.
So sold?
Simple as that. Now I think he's. I don't. I know, but I don't want to be that mean to Wan Mata. He's been such a great player for us. You know what I mean? During times where we've not been winning trophies season in season out, when we have won trophies, he's been pivotal in that squad as a first 11 player to win in the Europa League and FA Cups and League Cups. So just put him as squad player, mate. Come on.
No, I'm going to leave him a soul because, as you said, I can do what I want. What about Matic, Russell? Where would he go? Is he someone else who could go in the summer?
I think Matic will go in the summer, to be honest. Yeah, aging legs. Again, really smart mind. You know what I mean? Like, he sits deep with his great vision. But for me, he's not part of the philosophy and the new identity at United now. We move the ball a lot quicker from front to, and he's just not got the legs in him anymore to be part of that. So I reckon he'll go in the summer, yeah.
Raman, I don't want to dwell on Matic too long, but for you, does he stay in as a squad player or does he go in the summer? I suppose it depends if we bring in a defensive midfielder, right?
I think, irrespective of whether you bring in another defensive midfielder or not, he's got to stay. I think he's a very positive influence in the dressing room. I think he really helps the youngsters. And in particular, whoever you bring in, first, they might need some time to settle in, but he's probably the ideal person to help in that process. And if I'm honest with you, I think he's somebody who's a real good, steady influence on not just the young players, but even the senior pros as well. I think he needs to stay as a squad player.
Do you know what? I'm actually going to agree with you here. I'm going to keep him in a squad player because I also think if you're going to let someone like Wan Mata go, who clearly also has a big influence in the dressing room and has like tons of experience, you can't just get rid of two massively experienced players within your dressing room within one summer. So I'm going to agree with you there, Raman. Very, very good point. I'm going to put him in as a squad player. Let's go on next to a guy that I am going to put here. Anthony Martial. Now, the reason why I've put him in as a point to prove has got nothing to do whatsoever with his ability when he's got the ball at his feet. I've said this before and I've said this again. And Russell, you've heard me say this. I think with the ball at his feet, when he's running at defenders full of confidence, he is one of the best. One of the best. I think he sits defenders on their backside and he is fantastic. That raw ability he's got is unbelievable when he's running at defenders. He frightens the life out of every single defender on the planet. The problem is his consistency doesn't do it enough. When he puts his head down, he walks across the pitch, and I don't like that. I question his mentality all the time when it comes to him playing and he's not full of confidence. Additionally, he's just, for me, I don't know what's happened to him. I've just said about what I love about his game, and he seems to have lost all that. He's taking longer on the ball. He's passing it about. He's bringing other players into play. He's not taking on players like he used to. So as soon as he loses that ability and doesn't show that ability that makes him a very, very top player, you haven't got a player there anymore that's going to flourish and that can get into your team. So I think once we've let go of some more of the Deadwood, the likes, as we said there, or let go of the players who no longer can play in this first team, the likes of Mata, Jones, Lingard will end up going permanently, I believe. Pereira will end up going permanently. You've then got to start looking at players like Lindelof, Williams, Martial. Are they actually good enough? If we brought in another first team player, what happens to them players? Because they're not going to be happy just sat outside the squad of 22. So I think Martial has a massive point to prove. Massive point to prove. If he wants to stay at United, he has got to turn it on sooner rather than later. Raman, what do you think?
I think it's the right time to let him go. I think he's a He's a fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a fantastic talent. By the way, he's a superb talent. He's scintillating on his day, like you said. Can beat players, at will. He's got great pace, and even before his one-on-one finishing was very, very good. Let's face it, he's had some very, very good games for United, but he's had a lot more not so good games. And unfortunately, when you're leading the line as a number 9 for Man United, there's got to be much more than having one good game in 10. There are plenty of other strikers out there in the world that I would much rather take and make sure that they lead the line for Manchester United as a centre forward should. So for me, I wouldn't mind cashing in on him now and splashing the cash on. Personally, I like Haaland at the club. I think Erling Haaland would be the perfect number 9 for me.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with that. I heard a debate last night on the previous show. They're talking about Haaland and Mbappe and talking about the quality that those two lads have. And for me, I still stick by this. I think whatever club Haaland goes to next, they're going to dominate Europe for the next 10 years just because of his goals. I think he's outrageous. Russell, what do you think? Martial?
Yeah, I was on with your mate Gaz Drinkwater last night on his show on BBC Radio Manchester, and I had a quick chat about Martial. I still think he's a quality player, and I think you're right. When he's facing players, he's got time to run at him. That's when you see the best of him. That's when you see a happy Anthony Martial. That's when you see him in his prime. And you can't really do that when he's got his back turned to goal as a number 9. The only time he could play as a number 9, where he'd still excel and show his greatest abilities, if he played a false 9, because that gives you a chance to drop back into midfield again and run at players once more. But we don't play a false 9. That's why I think, as Raman said, Erling Haaland is perfect for Man United at the moment, because obviously we struggle as a team. Sorry to just go off tangent. We struggle as a team breaking down like the smaller teams, like your Sheffield Uniteds, your West Broms, your Arsenals. Teams that sit back and you have to break them down rather than having the space to run into. So we need like a central big figure like Erling Haaland. And as much as I love Anthony Martial, and I think he's fantastic, I think out of all our forwards right now, if one was going to be sacrificed to bring in a better player, a better striker, a better forward player, it would be him.
Do you know what? I just want to make a point on that, Russell, that you're saying about, his positioning and where he plays. Martial has made it clear that he sees himself as the number 9. That's what he wants to be. He's said that publicly, and Ollie's come out and said, Martial doesn't see himself as a left winger either. He sees himself as a striker. And I do think he's made adaptations to his game. I think he's holding the ball up a heck of a lot better now than he did at the start of last season. He lacks that cutting edge as a striker, and he drifts out wide far too much. But that's been where he's been shoehorned in and out of positions. I get that argument. But for me, if you're Martial and you want to be a number 9, you have got the perfect opportunity to study what Cavani does and learn from him. Now, if you have a look at how Mason Greenwood has changed his game as a striker, and we saw glimpses of that in the last 20 minutes against Newcastle, where clearly he's taken influence with his movements from Cavani, compared to when we've seen Martial at number 9 this year and how he's played, you've got to question where Martial's mentality's at, where he's putting the effort in. Because for me, if I'm Martial and I'm a young player, still 25, I mean, not necessarily young, but still got time to improve. Mate, you've got Cavani there. Like, watch him. Even if you're just making 5 or 6 more runs across the box in a game, It just shows a spark. It shows something's changing. He still doesn't do it. He just doesn't get in the box enough, does he?
Well, Ben, sorry to interrupt.
You just said it then as well, though. He's 26 now.
Go on, Raman. Sorry.
Sorry, the point I was going to make, apologies. Ben, you made the ideal point there. You just said, Martial, go and watch what Cavani does. That's why, for me, Cavani should be in the world category, because if we're eulogising over Martial being very good at this and very good at that and brilliant when he's on his day, he's one of the best in the world, that's why Cavani is world class. And that's why the strikers there, whether it's Rashford, Greenwood, whether it's Martial or anyone, they need to watch the world class striker that's Cavani, because his movement, his hold up play, everything that he does. Forget his age. Don't worry about his age. He's a world class player, and that's the difference between a quality player and a world class player. Because now we're talking about Martial studying a truly world class striker. And
do you know what I'm going to do, Roman? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to leave it down to the guys in the live chat. Should we change Cavani's position in our tier list from quality player to world class? Do you agree with Roman? Get in the live chat. If we get enough people saying yes, I will stick Cavani back up at world class. But I on Martial, Russell, sorry, you said quality player at the start, but do you agree though that he has a point to prove at the moment? So we'll keep him in the point to prove section for now.
I still think he's a quality player. I disagree with Ugly Bear, who says, lads, no way MUFC will sound at Erling Haaland. If that's your reason for not rating Anthony Martial,
no,
that's embarrassing.
Ugly Bear, you're not listening. You're not listening. Listen to the conversation. We're talking about his qualities. We're talking about what he's good at. We're talking about what he's not good at. And we're talking about the future of the team. You've got to judge his tier list on where we're going as a football club and what players are showing us week in, week out with the eye test. We're not sat here talking about statistics. We're not sat here talking about, XG. We're not sat here talking about tactical analysis. We're sat here talking about the players who play for our football club and what they're showing us on the football pitch. Come on. We've not once said Martial shouldn't be at this club because we should go and get Haaland.
And it's not just that either. You just said he's 26 years old, and you just said he's learning to hold the ball up. As a number 9, at 26 years old, you're not learning to hold the ball up as a number 9. That's in your locker already when you're 18, 19, 20 when you come into the team. He's a winger. He's a forward. He likes running at players. And when he's doing that, if he's on the left or on the right, preferably on the left, then for me, he's a quality player. But he needs to get this number 9 shit out of his head for me. As soon as he does that, then he's got a place on that left-hand side week in, week out.
Okay, right. I'm gonna. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether I should leave him as he is or budge him up to. The problem is he's not a squad player. He's never going to be happy as a squad player. Again, it's a difficult one. I'm going to leave him there. Can we just quickly just a quick word on Fred? I don't think we need to hit into his qualities or who he is too much as a footballer. I think we know who Fred is now. I think we know what he gives the team. So Russell, just where would you put him?
Squad player.
Raman?
Yeah, squad player.
Cool. Let me move into that. I completely agree with that. I think if we can go out and get a midfielder, I think we look at someone partnering Pogba or McTominay more potentially than Fred. Although what I must say is he has come on leaps and bounds this season. Right, let's hit on Mason Greenwood. And we've got to be really brief because we've gone over an hour. Russell, let me come to you first.
Okay, talented, potential, exciting, buff-footed. Doesn't even need half a yard, needs half an inch, and he can put the ball in the back of the net, but he's still progressing. And he's going to be a quality player one day. Right now, he's a squad player at Old Trafford.
Good point. I think that's fair. Raman, what do you think?
I think he's a quality player. I think he's above even a squad player. I think it's just a case of just giving the consistent run of games. It won't be long before he's world class, by the way. For me, he's easily a quality player. He's just too good to be a squad player.
Yeah, the funny thing is I also agree with that. And this is what you're saying earlier on, Russell. If you had a little line between each one that you could move players up to, then you're sort of there, aren't you? My worries is at the moment with Mason Greenwood, if we were to play him at number 9, and again, this is why when you've got questions, this is why I don't think you can budge people up, because when you're asking yourself a question, as to whether they can get to that point, you're then saying, well, actually, they're not there yet. And my question with Mason Greenwood would be, to make him a quality player, we need to see if he can be extremely consistent as a number 9, because I don't want to see him out on the right. Don't think he offers near enough the most that he could do out on the right compared to if he is playing as a number 9. Now, again, we look at Cavani. We're talking about him being world-class. Does Greenwood get in at number 9 above Cavani? I don't think he does if all are fit. So for me at the moment, I think we're having to utilise him within the squad that makes him a squad player. But don't get me wrong, he's freaking quality when he's given half a yard and he's given a chance and he's allowed to show his talents. So yeah, it's a tough one. When you've got such quality attributes, does that make them a quality player? Or are we talking about the role they play within the squad? It's tough, isn't it? It's really tough. I because he's a Manchester boy, I'm going to be biased. Right, let's go round to Van der Beek, Donny Van der Beek. Just quickly, we know who he is. So where would he go, Russell?
Point to prove.
Point to prove, Raman.
Yeah, I think it's point to prove. But I'll be honest with you, with a consistent run of games, in my opinion, technically second only to Bruno Fernandes in the squad. I think he's that good technically. Only, in my opinion, maybe Fernandes, possibly Pogba, technically are better than Van der Beek. He's just a superb little footballer. I feel so sorry for him, the fact that he hasn't had a chance to have a consistent run of games. Again, if we were to revisit this conversation in 12 months' time, I'd love to say quality player because personally I love Van der Beek. I think he's such
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Raman. I extremely agree with that. I think, again, it's one of those. It's, do we put him down for the position he's currently in within the squad, or do we put him down for his individual, qualities and prowess, so to speak? And that would be of quality, if not world-class attributes that he has in his locker. But I think you're right. I think the reason for me why he goes in a point to prove is that he isn't being given the games that he needs to prove that he's a quality player. It's as simple as that. Us as Manchester United fans, we haven't watched Ajax week in, week out, so we can't tell you that he's world-class or if he's quality. We watch him for Manchester United when he's given the opportunity. And again, that's the same with Dean Henderson. That's the same with Martial. That's the same with Lindelof. And that's why these players are where they're at from our point of view. But of course, there's millions of Manchester United fans in the world, millions of different opinions, millions of different thoughts. But I think the one thing that we can all agree on is that if it was the end of the season today, the only person close to challenging Bruno Fernandes to that Player of the Season award is probably Luke Shaw, right, Russell? What have you made of him? Where does he go on this list now?
He's just getting better and better and better, isn't he? People try and focus on the point that Telles comes in, Luke Shaw, all of a sudden ups his game. But I think Luke Shaw's game's been developing season in, season out since his horrific leg break. And this year is the season where he's really starting to show us just how good he is. I'm a bit just yet, but he's definitely just phenomenal this season. And apart from Bruno Fernandes, is the only other name I could put on a list that could challenge him for Player of the Year. So for me, Luke Shaw, potential to be right back up there as world class, but for now he's a quality player.
Raman, your thoughts on Luke Shaw?
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, to be fair, that this season in particular has been fantastic. You have to say quality player. I think it's important as well, guys, to just bear in mind the fact that with anything, opinions, etc. Football's very subjective, and it's all about opinions, and everyone's got their own opinion of who, what, where, why, and whatever they see through their eyes, is again very subjective. But I think what pleases me most is that this manager has trusted Luke Shaw. He's put his arm around him. Luke's felt much better. He's felt more confident. And like Russ just said, whether Teller's coming or not, the main thing is he's grabbed his opportunity again with both hands and actually has made a significant difference on the left-hand side. A year ago, Luke Shaw not playing in the first 11 might not have felt so different. But now, without Luke Shaw on the left-hand side, left back, you can just see that something's missing. So I think he's become a quality player, and I hope he just carries on his great form. Well done to the lad. He's put his head down, worked hard, And real credit goes to the coaching staff as well as Luke Shaw himself.
Can I ask you guys a question? I mean, I don't know how much international football you guys watch or European football, but can you name a left back in form right now that is better than Luke Shaw?
I don't think there's many. I can't really think of many.
Not in form.
Yeah, and if we talk Premier League, let's go, because we watch Premier League week in, week out more so. I'd say there's hardly anyone at this moment in time that's better. Last season, yes, you can argue. Obviously, Robertson was the better fullback or better left back, but this season, I think Luke Shaw has really, shown why that potential and why United bought him, why it's so important for him to, knuckle down, work hard, and show his true worth. In the Premier League, for sure, I don't think there's anyone better at this moment in time. It's about whether he can keep up that consistency as well.
I think if he keeps playing like he is at the moment, I think he makes the Premier League Team of the Year at left back, and I think he gets close to any Player of the Season awards potentially as well. I think he's in the top 5. He's been that good. I think that he is definitely the best left back in the Premier League at the moment. Don't watch enough international European football to say if there's anyone else out there better than him. But what I would say is when I look at world-class left backs, Luke Shaw's one of the best at the moment. I for that reason, I would say is world-class. But again, I would come back to the fact that the whole consistency argument that we've had already around what does world-class actually mean. And I think you summed it up perfectly, Raman, with what you're saying about opinions and being subjective. Us guys on here, we're giving our opinions, and afterwards we're giving 2 to 3 minutes on why we've decided that and why that's our personal opinions. Guys, if you're sounding off in the live chat going, no, I disagree, or no, is this, or no, is that, give us a reason as to why you think that. Don't just be blunt and throw around the fact that you just don't agree. Tell us why. Get involved, and we can engage with you and tell us why we think this way. And actually probably turn around and go, do you know what? Yeah, I can see that. A couple of times Russell hasn't agreed on a position with Raman, but has said, do you know what? I can totally see why you said that. Here's why I think it's this way. And that's what having a conversation, that's what having a debate, that's what being respectful is all about. At the end of the day, this virtual world gives us a platform to pretend that this is our pub table and we're sat around it as passionate Manchester United fans, being able to have a conversation and a debate. Don't be idiots about it. I had to rephrase what word I was going to be using then. Be respectful, have a chat with us, and we'll communicate with you and continue the conversation. We're on Twitter. Get at us. Let's continue the conversation online because we love that. But always remember, be respectful. And if you're going to come into a debate, bring a debate. Because I think that's what is rich. Barry, I'm not talking about you, buddy. You always bring the debate. And by the way, you can see Barry and Neil on Thursday when I'm sure they're going to be talking to Alexandra about what we saw in the Sociedad game. But yeah, always bring a debate. I think I'll leave Luke Shaw there, guys, because you guys gave us the general feeling around that. And that is our tier list. And I think as we look at that, we can maybe see why United potentially aren't there to be title contenders yet, but why we're also so close to being there as well. Just think if we can add 2 or 3 players to that world-class section and move a couple of players up to that quality player section, which we've got the potential to do over the next 12 to 24 months. If we can do that, I think we're in a great position. Go on, Russell.
Yeah, well, quickly, just on that one, saying adding 2 world-class players, I think there's 2 or 3 there. Luke Shaw could be there. If he keeps this up until the end of the season, the same form all the way through the season, then he's world class for me. Rashford's 12 to 24 months away from it. Greenwood's on the borderline to being world class as well in like 12 to 24 months. So then you've got your 5 players there already, and then we're going to bring in surely another world class player as well. So as you said, we're not there, but we're just getting there, and it's fucking exciting. Honestly, it's most excited I've been since Fergie left.
I agree with that. And also, when you talk about positions and stuff and you say Maguire getting the hate that he doesn't deserve, I think he is a great partner away from actually us going, do you know what? That's actually a world-class centre-back pairing. Might not mean that each player you'd think is world-class, but if you can get 2 people connecting and a defence that's stable and you can rely on, you can't then argue against the fact that actually what you've got there is a world-class pairing that is best at the top level. And I think that, you know, we are close to that. Again, Wan-Bissaka, if he's got a bit of stability there at centre-back and someone in front of him he can trust, again, he can get there as well. And I just want to finish on this point. Raman and Rusty, thank you so much for joining me, by the way. I've really enjoyed doing this show. Ugly Bear's just commented saying, but as viewers, we can disagree. Remember, this is about the viewers. But Ugly Bear, this is about the viewers, and we interact and we chat. But what we can't interact with someone just going, I disagree. But why? Come and have a chat. Come and have a conversation with us. You're not engaging with us. And when you spoke about the Haaland stuff, we told you why your comment wasn't factually correct and why you've misinterpreted what we were saying. Don't just jump in the chat and go, I disagree. Have a conversation. Bring something to the party. Because otherwise we can't have a chat. For instance, if I saw Raman at the bar, we're having a chat about Manchester United, we have our Manchester United tops on, we're having a debate, and he just went, yeah, no, I don't agree with that, bye. What does that bring to a conversation? It brings absolutely nothing. Come and engage and debate with us. We love having you guys here with us. We love having you guys interact in the live chat. You know, come and get involved and have your say. Then we can bring it up on screen and you can see that we've shown everyone your thoughts. And then people can say that they agree with you and don't agree with us. That is absolutely fine. But bring something to the party, especially when it comes down to stuff like this. Because as Raman said, it's so subjective. So subjective. You'll speak to 3 other United fans today who would put 5 of those players in different places, which is fair enough. Come on. Right, subscribe to the channel. United Daily will be back tomorrow. We have got on the show tomorrow former Manchester United player Danny Nardiello and Stretty News editor Dale O'Donnell. Thursday, La Liga journalist Alexander Johnson will be joining us alongside Neil and Barry. And then we've got a big fan show on Friday. Guys, hit subscribe to the channel. Make sure you come back over to us tomorrow. Thanks again to Raman and Russell. That was a fantastic chat. And I'll speak to you guys soon. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.